The Paul Ross Full Set Breakfast on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
And in the studio with me now, we have spoken to him on the programme before, is Tommy Robinson, former founder, leader of the EDL, who's now a best-selling author as well. Headlining the Times today. Tommy, good morning, by the way. Far-right fans fan flames of hate as number of white suspects soar, and they're pointing specifically to a couple of tweets you posted about the attack against the worshippers of that mosque. What would you like to say to that?
What tweet specifically? Because I've just...
OK, let me read this out to you then. OK, they're saying here, let me find this one in here. It's about basically saying, before people start aiming hate or threats at me about this revenge attack at your mosque tonight, I've warned for years what you'll create. Do you regard it then as a revenge attack?
I'd regard, yeah. So, look, the Islamic terrorist attacks, we've had 3 that have been successful in 3 months. There's been 5 failed ones in 3 months. There's been 12 last year. They're part of a massive, wide organisation and network with a campaign. This man was a revenge attack. It was reactionary to what they've been doing. There's no justification for it. It's completely wrong. It's barbaric. But I've been warning and trying to prevent this for years. I've been saying this is where we're going to end up. This is what's going to happen. And I can't believe people are... I dug up 12 days ago. 12 days ago I was talking to Alex Jones in America and I said we're going to create English bombers very soon. And unfortunately, they should listen. And when you see... I'm watching the current campaign against myself. The main news headline at the minute is Tommy Robinson... accused of inciting hatred. Accused by who? Because the police haven't accused me of inciting hatred. I haven't broken any law. There's now a massive slanderous campaign in every newspaper, politicians sitting on TV, presenters sitting there saying I've incited hatred.
Except that what people say is that you mention things like a big organisation of Muslim fanatics and extremists. I don't know if there's evidence for that in this country, and the vast majority of people who follow Islam, I have no faith myself, I'm an agnostic, but the vast majority of people who are Christians, the vast majority of people who follow Islam or are Hindus are peaceful, law-abiding people.
Yep.
And we can't judge those religions or those people by the maniacs that they attract, who say that, I mean, they're basically death cult worshippers. It's really nothing to do, I would say, with Islam or following Muhammad.
Yes, it is. It is completely. They are completely taking the literal interpretation and the instructions of Muhammad, and they're following them out. And, for example,
what about the Muslims who don't do that then?
Well, they're like most Christians. Most Muslims don't even go to mosque. Most Muslims I meet, when I start talking to them about their religion, I know more about it than them. Most of them. It's the same with Christians. Most Christians will go to midnight mass.
But you could find enough in the Bible to justify violent attacks. There's enough, certainly in the Old Testament, to justify some of the terrible things that Christians have done in the past.
You can.
Murders, slaughters, genocide, attacking the Jews, for example. You can justify that in the Bible.
You could, and that would be an argument if Christians were holding up the Bible right now and beheading people, quoting verses. If they were doing that in every single country in the world currently, if there were 2,000 Christians who had gone off to fight a holy war from Britain, because 4 times as many Muslims that have joined our armed forces went to fight in Syria. 500 of them have come back. We have up to 20,000.
More Muslims, the people who suffer because of groups like IS are the Muslims.
Are Muslims, yeah.
They're killing their own people.
Yeah, but
so how can that possibly, how can that possibly be then something that Muslims support? They don't.
Well, no, Muslims don't, but that's still an Islamic problem because within the Quran it says that if they're apostates or they're not following the deed of Islam, then they need to be killed. So there's all these different problems, and
do you not feel that by drawing constant attention to the evil side of Islam, you're in fact helping these people, you're creating division?
No, I think we have to be honest, especially honest more now than ever. And if we address these issues, we have to address these issues. Like what happened yesterday or 2 days ago at Finsbury Park Mosque. When I talk about this, I want to be able to sit and speak openly and honestly and give what I worry is going to happen without people saying I'm inciting hate or I'm encouraging.
But people say if you're a doomsayer, you're predicting something. It's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say white people or non-Muslims are getting angry, I know it's not about race. Yeah. Non-Muslims are getting angry. We're going to be aggressive. There are going to be bombers. Some people regard that as you encouraging people to do that.
Yeah, no. Warning about something and encouraging them for something. Warning about something and wanting something of complete opposite. I have done everything. I've dedicated my life to try and stop this. Now, when this comes to the head, which it's going to do, when it comes to a head, who's going to turn on each other?
What do you mean by that, Tommy? Let me unpick that a bit with you. What do you mean when it comes to a head?
I mean,
you're talking about race wars in this country.
I'm talking about religious conflict in Europe, completely. And I'm sorry, but they've forced this upon us now. And whether I sound it's depressing, it is depressing. I've got 3 beautiful young children I want to look at and know that they're going to have a safe future in this country, and they're not. And terrorism offences go up 60% every year. The problem gets worse and worse every year.
We learned this morning that the increased number of, for example, white extremists, they're called in the papers today, has increased by 66%.
Of course it will. Of course.
And you don't feel at all responsible for that?
No, not at all. No, if you go through my speeches, Paul, don't listen to what the headlines say. Yeah, dig up my speech from when Lee Rigby was killed and this country was at the height of its tensions. The first speech I give, and I know I have a responsibility because people are listening to me. I feel I have a responsibility to talk to them, and I always try and separate Muslims from Islam. Muslims are people. You can't hate people. Islam's an idea. I said it's a bad idea, and I think it needs as much criticism as we can give it.
Is it a worse idea than Christianity?
Yeah, completely. It's a completely different concept.
Okay, let me play you something that a guest just about 10 minutes ago said to me. Ishmael Lee South from an organisation called the Salam Project. Have a listen.
Tony Robinson, I see him as the same way as Abu Hamza. He's just a hate preacher. He's just an opportunist hate preacher, just like how Abu Hamza was and Omar Bakri was. He's just a nut. He's just the right-wing version.
Okay, so that was quite an extreme view expressed there. But what he's saying is basically you are effectively fanning the flames from the other side of the
No, it's ridiculous. He said I'm Abu Hamza and Omar Bakri. Abu Hamza and Omar Bakri called for death and murder, and they want enslavement of non-Muslims. I'm not calling for enslavement of Muslims. I'm calling for peace. I'm not calling for any violence. As I said, my first speech after Lee Rigby, I stood on stage to all of our supporters at the height of tensions in our country, at the height, and I said there's 600 Muslims in the British Armed Forces who are doing a lot more for our country than I am. Yeah? If you attack a Muslim woman walking down the street, you are a complete coward. If you attack a mosque, you're a moron. Yeah? Every opportunity I've had, every single time, this whole not all Muslims, I go out of my way to make everyone clear of that, to make my supporters clear of that, to educate people that that people can be angry right now. They should be angry. We should be very angry at what's happened to our country, what's been allowed to happen. It's how you address that anger, which is what the government and policies, they shouldn't be trying to correct people for having a problem with Islam. They should be trying to help them address their anger and frustration in a democratic way.
Squeeze a call in if you may. The number is 0344 499 1000. Let's go to Doncaster and say good morning to Chris. Chris, I'm not sure what's on your mind. Have you got a question for me or for Tommy?
Well, I just wanted to point something out, really, to everybody. I'd just like to say hello to Tommy as well and to you, Paul. I've sent you a message on Facebook, Tommy, so if you get a chance to read it at some point, I'd appreciate it. I'd just like to say, this morning I was listening, Paul, and you said that Tommy's getting some flack for saying it's a revenge attack, but how can it not be a revenge attack? Nobody's going to jump in a car and start mowing people down. Just because,
revenge. You see, I would say a revenge attack means you have a go at the people specifically who've done the atrocities you're unhappy about. Those people, though, are, as we know, dead. Okay, so you can't take revenge upon the dead. This seems to be a random attack, tarring all Muslims with the same brush. That's the problem with saying it's a revenge attack.
No, but it's not. It's not tarring Muslims with the same brush. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've just done a 14-year prison sentence. I was in HMP Franklin, and that to me is where the problems are starting for people that are doing what they're doing in England. Because I've seen good lads walk into the prison system and they're all right and everything's fine. Yeah, they've made a mistake and they're doing the time. But as soon as they get locked onto these wings with these extremists that I was locked on with, as soon as they get the claws in them, they're leaving the prison system absolutely hating this country because of what gets said to them by these extremists that are in there.
Tommy, we've got a response to that. Let Tommy respond to that.
Yeah, buddy, I've seen it. I've one of my best friends converted to doing 4.5 in jail, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Our prison camps are ISIS training camps, and they are breeding an army. And I think our security. Yeah.
They are breeding an army. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was in some newspaper when Lee Rigby got killed. I was on the wing, and it come on the news. It come straight on the telly on Association. I was in high security. And I was locked up with the 3 terrorists that was going to fly the Virgin Atlantic planes over to America and blow them all up at the same time. And I was on the wing with the guy that drove the car into the airport at Scotland on Boxing Day. And as soon as it came on the telly, they all started cheering, laughing. And
that's every prison. Every prison done that. I tried talking about that at the time. Everyone was shouting me down as trying to lie. Majority of prisons done that with Muslims in. They cheered.
Let's get another call in. It's Mohammed calls us now from Berkshire. Someone in Berkshire. Morning, Mohammed. You're on Talk Radio. Question for Tommy.
Hello, I'm actually a friend of his. I think he's, every time he speaks about Islamic ideology, he's called a racist and been shut down. Now, we need to openly speak about my community, my Pakistani community and the Islamic community as a whole. I turned away from Islam. Now, we need to openly speak about what goes on in my community. For example, we are taught that the white girls are trash, they're easy to lay.
But let me cut in there for a second. That cannot be taught to everybody. That may be taught to some morons who believe it. But, Brian, I can't accept that because I've got Muslim friends. My children go to school or went to school with Muslims.
Let me finish. Let me explain, okay? We are taught that. I'm not saying every single person is taught that, but a majority of us are taught that. That is a problem. That is the issue. And that's why you got 28 towns where men from my community decided to rape white girls. 28 towns. Also, my community also is taught that anyone that turns away from Islam, they must be forced out of the community or even attacked. 3 of my friends were almost murdered because they turned away from Islam. We need to address these issues. The trouble with Tommy is he has a passion and he's easily misunderstood as an angry, irrational person, and he's not. He has spoken against hate crimes against my community. He has flown a Pakistani flag in one of his speeches. He's even had an Indian person and 2 other Asians speaking on his platform at Manchester, speaking against hatred, and yet the media fails to report on that and highlight that. And I wonder what the media's agenda is.
Well, I suppose it's they don't want to be seen to, comment on things that aren't factual, but also they don't want to be seen to be fanning the flames of further hatred.
Well, if we don't deal with the issues, for example, right, when there are thousands of people that turned away from Islam in the UK who are having to flee their communities, why is this allowed to be happen in the UK? Why? My community needs to be called out on that.
OK, thank you very much for that call, Mohammed. More calls standing by. I'm going to prevail upon Tommy to stay with us for another 10 minutes. It's
the Paul Ross Full Set Breakfast on Talk Radio.
We'll get you talking.
It's 7:33. Still with us, Tommy Robinson, former leader of the English Defence League, of course, talking to me and to you. If you've got a question for Tommy, he's with us for another 10 minutes or so. 0344 499 1000. Let me ask you, Tommy, about Donald Trump's policy towards, or what he wants to implement, which is to ban citizens from, I think, 6 mainly Muslim countries from coming to the UK because their security forces won't cooperate with background checks. Is he on the right track there?
If we had that policy in place, then 22 people would be alive in Manchester. That's the reality. So what do you care about, hurt feelings, or do you want to protect kids? That's what we have to ask. That's what we have to put the situation we should be in.
By the same token, if our society is in danger of fragmenting, isn't a constant focus on the negative, on that tiny minority of maniacs who are doing these things, isn't that going to be counterproductive? Won't that keep that atmosphere going, which allows people to be recruited by the extremists?
No, I think all we need to care about is protecting our citizens. That's first and foremost. That's it. That's all we should be caring about. And when we now see that they're targeting our children, look, I have to leave it out there. I went into Didsbury Mosque and I picked up a book, and I've got the book, and they talk in the book about how music is evil and music is from the devil. This is in the mosque.
Ian Paisley felt the same thing, though.
Yeah, but this is in the mosque that Salman Abedi went to. So music is of the devil. They actually talk about young pop stars and how evil it is, and then they talk about Western civilization, how everything is wrong and everything is moral. When you get these two things in Didsbury Mosque, and then you have a preacher called Quick who comes in and says that if people leave Islam, they must be killed. You have another local preacher called Muhammad Adam who says that when you see non-Muslims walking down the street, you should force them to cross the other side of the road because they're filthy. He says that if you see non-Muslims, you should never say salam, never show them respect.
But
when you
aren't
put
these people just idiots, Tommy? Why should we give them credence?
They're preaching in mosques, and we've got people from that mosque. Salman Abedi's father's part of the mosque. He fought for Al Qaeda. The imam from that mosque in Didsbury actually fought jihad in Libya himself, the imam. Yeah, that's like the priest is out there killing people. We need to realise what's going on in these mosques. Now, with this most recent terrorist attack this week by I forget the man's name, Osborne or whatever, at Finsbury Park Mosque.
With the alleged attack, yeah.
If we followed back from him and we found a centre in Cardiff where 4 non-Muslim men had been standing up saying we must kill Muslims, yeah, that centre would be shut down. Those people would be arrested.
So we're too sensitive then?
Well, what our police is responsible was with Didsbury Mosque. They put a police guard outside it, they protected it, they get council funding, and they stood together holding placards and banners saying stronger together. These men have...
we would be stronger together, wouldn't we? We need to win these people over hearts and minds.
No, you can't be stronger together with people who think that non-Muslims need to be killed. People who think that children need to be killed if someone leaves Islam. You can't be stronger together. You have to separate these people. There are some great Muslims out there, yeah, and that are not like this. But when we find mosques like this, they must be shut down. And so long as you don't shut these mosques down, you don't show any light at the end of the tunnel. You don't show 2,000 ISIS.
But all that happens then is they go, a church isn't a building. A church is a body of people. If you close down a mosque, they'll meet somewhere else. They'll meet in a field. They'll meet in a youth club premises.
Yep, and we should be shutting that down as well. These preachers should not be allowed to fly in and out of our country. The problem is when people, the general public are watching all of this now because of media, because of online. Everyone's understanding. People are learning and seeing what's happening. They're scared. Yeah. And you will result in more men doing what happened this week. And that's not me wanting it. I said, talking about saying I'm wanting it, it's very different.
Let me get a caller up. John in Manchester's joined the conversation. John, you're on Talk Radio. What do you want to say to us?
Yeah, good morning, Paul. What I want to say is, I did actually ring you regarding the fact when you said earlier on about what unites us more than what divides us.
It's the thing Jo Cox said, the murdered MP. She said we have more in common.
Right. I've lived in a multicultural area of Manchester now 15 years, and there's no hatred here.
Can I ask what area of Manchester you live in?
Yeah, Longside.
Can I ask what percent of Muslims there are there?
It's probably about 40% Muslim. Longside
is 40% Muslim. You sure of that?
It's multicultural because there's Muslims. There's
no, I understand that. Well, I'm asking what percent of Muslim, because I see multiculturalism. You see in Luton. Luton is where I've been brought up. Multiculturalism does work. When our political leaders come out and says it doesn't work, I think that that's an insult to Sikhs, it's an insult to Solutions, Jamaicans, Irish, it's an insult now to the Polish, who have all come here, worked hard and integrated. Now, I only talk about my experience of growing up in Luton. The town is divided in two, through religious lines, not through racial lines, the Islamic community, the non-Islamic community. That's just where we're at. So I'd ask what the percentage of Muslims are in Longside. You may have lots of black...
Yeah, but why the divide? There shouldn't be a divide.
Do you want me to tell you why the divide?
We're all Abrahamic religions at the end of the day. Christianity and Islam and Judaism all have the same basic root.
No, have you read the Quran?
I have actually read large sections of the Quran, because I need to understand the area where I live. But what I want to take exception to you with, Tommy, seriously, is you actually said that if Donald Trump's rules had been in place, 22 people wouldn't be dead in Manchester. Well, they would be, because the guy lived in Rusholme.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been able to go get bomb training in Libya.
Yeah, he can easily get bomb training on the internet, for goodness sake.
What, a bomb that size? Well, no, I don't think so, mate. He went to a training
camp.
Although,
as we know, John, we don't want to descend into the mechanics of bomb making, because as we know from the dreadful London Bridge attack. No, what I'm saying is from the London Bridge attack, you don't need to make a bomb.
This guy could come and go as he wanted because he was a British citizen.
John, thank you very much for that call. He joined the conversation, moved it on, in fact, by dialing 0344 499 1000. See, you mentioned Luton. For about 18 months now, until September this year, I was living right beside Slough. I was in Slough a lot. Very big Islamic community in Slough. I got to know people there. I go in the charity shops, I talk to people. Even had a kind of small job over that way. I didn't get that sense of division you're talking about, because I don't think Catholics define themselves by their Catholicism. Sikhs may define themselves by their religion to an extent, but actually they're part of our society, as are, I would say, most Muslims.
So Muslims are integrated in Slough?
Well, from what I saw, yeah.
So you saw groups of Muslims with non-Muslims?
I did, yeah. I saw them actually outside pubs together.
Muslims in pubs?
But more outside, because it was summer, so more outside. But they'd be drinking orange squash or drinking cola, but they're in the pubs.
Because I challenge every journalist when we come to Luton. I just say, find me. We'll spend the day in Luton if you want.
Yeah.
Find me a group of Muslims with a non-Muslim. Just find me one. Just that's it. Let's walk around the town.
You don't see it when they're coming out of schools, Tommy. You don't see it. My son
went
to school in East
London. No, coming out of school is very different. Because I had Muslim friends at school, and then we're in school, everything's fine. Then as soon as you get out that door, we're separated. As soon as you get to 16, it's done. The relationship, you don't see them, and there's no. Yeah, and as I said, when I was talking to that last caller, if you pick up the Quran, when I spent 22 weeks in solitary confinement, I wanted to understand what was happening. I dissected the Quran, and every time I had a reference, do not be friends with Christians or Jews, I wrote the reference down. Within an hour, I had pages and pages and pages and pages.
And certainly that point was made on this programme by Tom Holland, the leading historian, who made a documentary, I think, for Channel 4 about the origins of violence in Islam. Let me ask you a question a couple of people have put to us via Twitter, finally, Tommy. It says, you previously described British Muslims as enemy combatants.
No, I didn't. No, that's not correct. What I did is, after the Manchester attack, I went up to a mosque in Manchester, and I stood there. And when where I was standing, I said, within a 2-mile radius of where I'm standing now, there have been 16 men who have died fighting for ISIS or for terrorism. One of them's name was Burgos. This man Burgos come into a lorry, in the back of a lorry in the UK. 3 weeks later, he was arrested by counter-terrorism and he murdered a police officer in the raid. Massive extremist, yeah? I said, in this, what we need to know is, in this vicinity, yeah, there are enemy combatants. Yeah.
So what do we do then to prevent terrorist attacks in the UK? How can we stop this?
I'd say we have to...
Because you could have gone to Belfast in the 70s and made a similar statement about people who have been convicted of terrorist offences within a 3-mile radius of Bogside.
Yeah, and we interned the IRA.
Is that the answer?
We accepted that we're in a war and these people are fighting against us. We should accept that 500 men are back. I'll give you another example. I was in... I got a phone call from Bedfordshire Police, the Chief Inspector, and he said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the gym." "Why?" He said, "Where is it?" "I'm coming to see you." He comes to see me and he said, "Right, you're supposed to be here on Friday afternoon." And I was going into London. I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, your coordinates have been intercepted from a Twitter account in Syria, from an ISIS phone in Syria." So he said, "We're asking you not to go." I said, "Well, why shouldn't I go?" And he said, "Tommy, 450 of them are back. ISIS fighters are back." I said, "I didn't let them back." I said, so hold on.
Yeah, but you put your head above the parapet time and time again. But you must go. There must be times when you think you're a target.
No, I know I'm a target. So what I then said to him is, I'm not going to change my life at all. I'm not going to not go to this meeting or not go to where I'm supposed to be going because a load of barbarian cavemen want to kill me because I spoke out about their religion. Now, when I've said that, then the police officer said, "What if they kill one of our police officers?" So I said, "So now you're putting that on me." So now you're putting that on me.
But if they're asking you not to go somewhere, they need to protect you.
But what's next? They've asked me to leave Luton for the rest of my life. They've given me 6 letters from the government telling me they cannot protect me. I need to leave my hometown and never come back. Why? Why? What? Because I speak about Islam.
OK, let's leave that question hanging for other people listening to answer. 0344 499 1000. Thank you for joining us live in the studio. That was Tommy Robinson there talking to me, Paul Ross, on Talk Radio.